Hello, Cherie here from Ashima Living. I am a naturopath yoga and mindfulness instructor, and I help women overcome anxiety and low mood naturally and without nasty side effects. It's been a while since I've done a live, but I'm getting back into it. And today I've got something to share, which I know from my listeners and people on my list, they find this the most interesting kind of live, which is actually stories from my clinic, client stories. So this one is shared with permission from one of my clients. She doesn't want her name mentioned, but happy to share her story. So I'm just going to call her Jane. And Jane came to me several months ago suffering from panic attacks, anxiety, and sleeping issues. And her anxiety and panic attacks had been worsening. In fact, she hadn't actually suffered from actual panic attacks until the previous 3 months before seeing me. And during that time, she had had several quite severe ones with breathlessness, racing heart, confusion, that kind of thing. She did have a diagnosis of complex PTSD due to a history of childhood trauma. So her anxiety was quite episodic, particularly when her trauma was resensitized, but it had never been this bad before, where she'd actually had panic attacks. Now Jane, she also had a lot of lifestyle stress going on at the time. She had quite a difficult boss that she was working with, so that wasn't helping. But she was a very proactive person in the sense that she'd already tried a lot to support her mental health. So she was seeing a great therapist who had helped her a lot. She did meditation, she did breath work, she did ecstatic dance, a lot of kind of mind-body therapies to help with the trauma. And she had tried and was using a mix of natural and pharmaceutical medicines as well. So she was taking prescribed melatonin for her sleep. She was taking Masindol, which is a painkiller, because she also had a lot of muscle pain, which we see quite commonly with chronic stress and trauma as well, as ongoing kind of muscle tension and pain. She was taking ashwagandha, which is a herb that helps with stress resilience and can help with anxiety. She was taking valerian for sleep, magnesium, and also what had started out with occasional Valium use when her anxiety was really bad and the panic attacks were bad. But she was finding this was starting to increase her use of Valium, and this was something she didn't want because although Valium can be very effective, it's highly addictive. So she was really looking for something that will help acutely with those panic attacks, that was natural and didn't have those risks of addiction. So we did a really thorough case history, and what came up in that as well was a long history of sinus infections, allergies, sensitivity to dust, to mold, to pollen, which is actually an important detail, which we'll get to in a minute. Also had a history of gut issues, much better for avoiding gluten and having a pretty good diet. But with this increased stress and anxiety over the last few months, she had actually been getting heartburn and reflux. So this is really common with severe stress as well, and it can lead to ulcers. So yeah, that was an issue for her as well. So for our first treatment protocol, one of the first things I did was give her access to my 8-week mindfulness program, the Calmer Mind course. So I'm a huge advocate of taking an integrative approach to mental health. So looking at the physical side of it, because there are physical drivers and exacerbators. So looking at diet, supplements, what some of the physical underlying causes could be, but also working on that mental side of it. So mindfulness really helps, can help reduce rumination, which was a big issue for her. That was part of the reason she wasn't sleeping. She was really ruminating and thinking a lot. And mindfulness can help you just diffuse from those thoughts and be a lot more kind of body centered rather than up here in your mind. And mindfulness as well has been proven to switch off that fight or flight state and get you into a more calm state of the nervous system. So gave her access to that, and she was open to meditation, so happy to dive into that. I also recommended some dietary changes and gave her access to my anti-anxiety diet. So this is something I actually give away for free to anyone that wants to try it. So the link should be linked to this video. If it's not, just send me a DM if you want access, and I'm happy to give it to you. So this is a diet that works on supplying key neurotransmitters to the brain, balancing blood sugar, and reducing inflammation, because these are all drivers of anxiety and also other mental health issues. And she had a pretty good diet, but I could see there was some tweaks that could be made to help stabilize her blood sugar. And she'd complained that her energy wasn't that great either. But stabilizing that blood sugar is key, because if your blood sugar is fluctuating up and down all day, then that is triggering stress hormones. The body perceives that as a very stressful state to be in. So you're going to be pumping cortisol all day just to bring that under control. And we're trying to tell her body and her nervous system that she's safe. We're trying to reduce that cortisol. So balancing blood sugar is just stacking the odds in her favor. So we worked on diet. I also prescribed a combination of 3 herbs that work on the GABA pathway. So the GABA pathway of the brain is a neurotransmitter system that does help reduce anxiety. And because she was finding Valium to be effective, Valium works the same way, working on that GABA receptor. I chose these 3 particular herbs for her to try instead of her Valium for those episodic times of severe panic and anxiety. And it can help with sleep too. So prescribed that. I also changed her magnesium formula to a different one with a better absorbed form of magnesium, and a formula that had a lot of other nutrients in there that help support sleep as well. So we changed her over to that. I also wrote a referral letter to her doctor with a list of, quite a long list of other blood tests to get done. And included in that was looking at her whole blood histamine and some other markers, because with her allergies and history of sinus infections and that kind of thing, as well as some other symptoms that came up, I suspect her of having an issue with histamine. It could be histamine intolerance, or she could be what we call undermethylated. So what a lot of people don't realize is histamine, it's not just involved in allergy, it's actually a neurotransmitter in the brain. And excess histamine can cause anxiety, restlessness, racing thoughts, rumination, a lot of the symptoms that she actually has. So even though obviously she's got this history of PTSD, if there's histamine imbalance on top, that can be just blowing it into this more severe anxiety state. So I really wanted to dig a bit deeper and find out if that was the case. So why is there histamine imbalance? It's different for different people. Some people, they're consuming too much histamine in their diet and they're not breaking it down. Other people have a genetic variation where they just don't break it down as well as other people. So there's actually a few reasons, but that's what we wanted to look into. So follow up, when she came back, there was quite a big gap. She didn't come back for about 3 months. Life had gotten quite busy. She had changed jobs. Thankfully, she was in a new job with a much better boss. She didn't have that difficulty with her boss anymore. So that reduced a lot of stress in her daily life. The biggest thing she said was she noticed that the herbal formula, oops, I'm getting all these messages. Hope you can't hear those dings. The herbal formula in particular had worked enormously well. So that she found would bring her anxiety down really quickly within about 20 or 30 minutes of taking it. She had started off taking it every day, but as she got better and better, she was only taking it for those days where she felt particularly anxious. And the good news is she had not had any other panic attacks since our first consultation and starting the herbs. She also found that it was helping her sleep. So her sleep had improved a lot, though she was sleeping a lot better in general, and as I say, didn't need to take it every night anymore. She had significantly reduced the Valium use and was only very occasionally taking a half tablet before her, if she was really anxious before her period, which is something I didn't mention. Her anxiety did get worse before her period as well, which is common. Again, pointing to that GABA issue, because as progesterone drops before your period, progesterone works on GABA. So anxiety can really get a lot worse before menstruation. Her energy had improved from a 5 out of 10 to a 7 out of 10. She had implemented most of the dietary changes, and she felt that her blood sugar and energy levels were a lot more stable and consistent throughout the day without these big drops. Stress levels she felt had reduced from an 8 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10. Heartburn gone. And her muscle pain was also significantly reduced on the new magnesium formula that we tried out. So she was very happy with the results so far. She hadn't had a chance yet to get the blood test done because things were a bit hectic with the job change. But our plan going forward is to just dig a bit deeper and make sure there isn't any of these excess histamine issues. And I'm also curious to look into her gut a little bit more, because with her sinus infections and gut symptoms, she'd had a long history of antibiotic use, so she may have quite a disrupted microbiome. And that certainly doesn't help mental health symptoms. So going forward, working with her gut could be another avenue just to support those physical drivers behind potential mental health symptoms as well. But all in all, really good start to reducing her symptoms. And I wanted to share this case because it's a great one to just highlight that, yes, with natural medicine, we go deep, we do work on things over several months, but you can get some very fast, acute symptom relief as well when you get the right formula. So for her, those herbs worked really, really well. All right, thanks for watching. Like I said, if you want to try that anxiety diet, the link should be linked. Otherwise, send me a message. If you're suffering from anxiety and want to have a chat about how natural medicine could help you, I offer free 30-minute one-to-one answers to anxiety consultations via phone or online video. So send me a message and you are welcome to schedule one of those if you want to have a chat. Okay, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.